species took over an entire planet? Maybe they're cute, maybe they're clever, but lack a certain, shall we say, self-restraint? What if they go too far? What if they go way, 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 way too far? How would they know when it's their time to go?
Due to our release through factories and automobiles every year of more than 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide, our atmosphere seems to be getting warmer. This is bad. Well, it's been calculated a few degrees rise in the Earth's temperature would melt the polar ice caps. And if this happens, an inland sea would fill a good portion of the Mississippi Valley. Foreign weather, we're not only dealing with forces of a far greater variety than even the atomic physicist encounters, but with life itself.
That was 1958. We've known about the dangers of climate change for 6 decades. Back then, there was so much air pollution that would actually block out the sun. There was so much water pollution, rivers caught on fire. Forget throwing plastic bottles into the water. We tossed our cars in there. We also knew someday we'd run out of oil.
For millions of Americans, this may be the worst weekend they've ever faced for finding gasoline to give them the automobile freedom they take as their due.
I never doubted humans would find a better way, and I wanted to be part of it. A scientist sounded the alarm, and the modern environmental movement was born.
Unless we do bring these chemicals under better control, we are certainly headed for disaster.
Students all across the country organized the first Earth
Volume 74.
To talk about the environment, but as every day proceeds, we find very, very little concrete being done.
As for me, you might say I was an early environmentalist. When I was 9 years old, a bulldozer began knocking down the woods near my home. I retaliated by putting sand in its gas tank. When I grew up, I became a tree hugger and moved to the wilds of northern Michigan to build a sustainable homestead and commune with nature. I wired my cabin for solar panels and heated with wood instead of fossil fuels. I wrote about sustainable living and environmental issues for the Mother Earth News and several news outlets. I traveled the country documenting invasive species, ecosystem collapse, and species threatened with extinction. I covered protests against destroying mountains for coal. and was once even confronted by the BP police.
You're a journalist?
Yeah.
By all means, you can take all the pictures you want. Okay. We'll write a report, and then we have to send it to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. They'll call you.
Through all of this, I kept wondering, why are we still addicted to fossil fuels? So I decided to begin following the green energy movement. What better place to check out how a renewable energy revolution is coming along than a solar festival in the Green Mountain state of Vermont, powered by 100% solar energy.
Solar.
I was having fun and got a chance to ask about getting solar panels installed.
You can keep adding, so maybe every time you get a tax return, buy another solar panel.
But then a little rain began to fall. My cameraman noticed some commotion behind the stage.
Let's get stuff here. This is one of our biodiesel generators in case the power Oh, so the festivals run off solar energy primarily? Primarily. We do need to bring some of this stuff in just because we want to make sure we have enough power to not kill our fancy toys that are blocking the stage.
But the biofuel generator wasn't enough, so they wound up plugging into the electrical grid that we all use.
The other inverter operating, it's actually pulling power in from the grid, charging the batteries. It's running backwards from the way we originally intended to do it, but...
That was disappointing. But after all, it had been raining. Maybe next time things would go better. Luckily for us, hope was on the way.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, change has come to America.
Green activists across the country cheered when newly elected President Barack Obama rolled out a $1 trillion stimulus package with nearly $100 billion for green energy. Green was finally ramping up, and everyone wanted to be part of it. President Obama brought in environmental activist Van Jones from the Apollo Alliance with shovel-ready projects.
They've got to put up tens of thousands of wind farms. They've got to put up millions of solar panels.
Former Vice President Al Gore, who had a few years earlier released an Oscar-winning film, shared his ideas with the president.
We have the opportunity now to create jobs all across this country, in all 50 states, to repower America.
Al Gore had already encouraged billionaire airline owner Sir Richard Branson to invest big time in green energy.
Branson is pledging future profits from his airline to the tune of perhaps $3 billion. $3 billion, that's with a B, to fight global warming.
Is Al Gore a prophet? How'd you spell prophet?
Investors came forward.
Investor Vinod Khosla, known as the father of the clean tech revolution, has poured over $1 billion of his own money into some 50 energy startups.
Major banks were eager to get involved.
By 2020, we think renewables will require $395 billion on an annual basis.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was both on the board of major environmental organizations and was leading a green energy investment group.
We build wind farms, we build solar farms. Once you build our plant, it's free energy forever.
The Sierra Club received $50 million from billionaire and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Their mission, fight coal and promote clean energy.
So with the mayor's gift, here's what will happen. We'll have a large and aggressive presence in 46 states.
It's time for America to find a new energy path, one that takes us beyond coal.
And then Bill McKibben, one of the nation's leading environmentalists and author of a breakthrough book called The End of Nature, formed an organization called 350.org with the mission of igniting a global climate movement.
Can I show off my necktie for a minute? Because they made it for me yesterday. It's got that 350 on it because it's the most important number in the world.
Things were looking up, and the green energy revolution was underway. Michigan had been hit hard by the Great Recession, and hundreds of millions of dollars in green stimulus money was arriving. Now, to do their part for the new green economy, General Motors introduced a new line of electric vehicles. When the Chevy Volt was ready for release, I attended their press conference.
So these electric vehicles are ready for public consumption, and we're ready with the infrastructure, with the rates, with the communications.
I am extremely grateful to be here today, and in fact this is a chance for me to say thank you more formally. The Chevy Volt is upstairs. We'll be able to take a look at it. We've got about 1,000 photos.
Yeah.
This is the plug. It's as simple as that.
The batteries are in the trunk?
No, the battery in this particular design is a T-shape right down the center and across the back seat area. Because everybody thought we killed the electric vehicle. No, we didn't. It's alive and well.
So what's charging the batteries right now? What's the source of
Well, here. It's coming from the building.
I mean, is it, what's their mix of power?
Oh, actually, Lansing feeds the building.
What's that?
Lansing feeds power to the building. So I don't know.
They're,
I bet you they're a bit of coal. They're heavy on natural gas, aren't they?
right now the car's charging off of your grid?
Right. It would be charging off our grid, which is about 95% coal.
How long do you think it will be before there's a solar and wind powered grid?
Oh, golly.
To suggest that all of the power used for these cars will be generated from wind and solar in the very near future would not be correct. In fact, we're talking about charging these up at night, so there won't be any solar at that time. So we're down to wind, and very often at night the wind does fall off. So
I don't think coal is bad. The what?
Big battle. Mountaintop removal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got lovely BTUs. It's got lovely
Very
energy
dense,
value.
yeah.
How do you burn it more cleanly? I mean, do you see natural gas getting bashed?
we will be delivering power based on natural gas very shortly. And even with that that mix, we intend to use biofuels if we can.
Well, the environmental groups are extremely supportive.
We did install the state's largest solar array at my company, the Board of Water and Light. It's just down the street from here, a few miles, if you want to take a look at it. What outfit are you with?
New World Media. We're doing a segment on the renewable energy.
Oh, excuse me, I gotta go for a second, but thanks.
I decided to take him up on his offer to check out their football field-sized solar array right down the street.
What we're trying to do with this kind of a tour is get a sense for what they've already done as an indication of what we could do to push the envelope even further.
We took a hard look at wind and determined that, you know, around here there's not any real good wind coming through all the time. That's what we liked about solar. You would get the power when you most needed it. Pass these around, look at them. They are pliable. Made in Michigan, that was another good thing. Although the efficiency of these panels is only about just under 8%. If you happen to be NASA and you happen to own a rover running around Mars, they have very efficient panels. But we can't afford those at about $1 million a square inch.
How many homes would this array provide electricity?
The standard answer that we tell everybody is we're providing enough to meet the peak requirements of 50 homes. However, for most of the people that look at it a little bit closer, we generate about 64,000 kilowatt hours a year. Our average customer uses about 6,000 kilowatt hours a year. 6,000 into 64 is just a little over 10. We can meet the energy requirements for 10 homes over a year.
Will that be an incentive to put more solar on?
Well, if you wanted to make all of the energy required for the city of Lansing over a year,
well, how about
you'd have a solar array that was 3 miles by 5 miles.